Hey guys, my name is Santi. I had a lot of people ask me what I was running as a build and like what I was playing for Midnight Season 1. So I thought I would just make a guide and that would kind of be easier for everybody. So basically what I'm doing is the first thing I think people ask is what spec are we playing when you're Fury? If you're either playing Mountain Thane or you're playing Slayer. I would love to play Slayer, and I think most warriors would prefer playing Slayer. Sadly, Slayer's just awful right now. Even though it got buffed, even though they buffed the Blaze Charm, or they kind of unnerfed it a couple weeks ago, it still is absolutely just not good at all. I think the main reason is because I don't know why or who had the brilliant idea to put Avatar and Blaze Storm for Fury in the same choice node, and it's just horrible. Um, so yeah, so basically all Fury Warriors in PvP are now playing Mountain. This is the build I'm running with a couple modifications. So one of the things I do is I would change the AoE Stormbolt if I have another stun on my team that goes on DPS, right? Or if I don't want to just put DRs on like the entire team. Usually I find this helpful, uh, and I think I'm one of the only ones. Mostly because Storm Shield, the shield you get from the extra shield you get from Vening like doesn't really do a lot, or at least I have never found it helpful. One of the weird things you guys will notice is that we are not playing Shockwave, which I know is kind of weird, but after they nerfed it, a couple patches ago, and it's now like 2 seconds, it's really not worth taking it. It's just, yeah, it's just not good at all. As for new talents, I guess that we have, one of the new things that we have is we have Banner again, which is basically like the Berserker Shout. And if you take Berserker Shout instead of Berserker Rage, and then you take the Berserker Roar PvP talent, your Roar is basically a banner, meaning you get yourself out of fears, you get your team out of fears, right? But you also reduce the next crowd control they have on any team member that's like next to you by like 50% for the next 10 seconds. So this is amazing for outplays. Like the difference between you using this at the right time and not using it at the right time could literally be the how winning the game or losing the game, right? Especially against setup based comps like RMP, Thug Cleave, anything with a rogue, anything with a mage. This is especially like good against. The talent that I'm PB talent that I'm changing most games is this one. I am either taking Safeguard or taking Disarm. Sometimes even like Short Rally. The problem with Short Rally was I used to take Short Rally when Rally used to take us out of roots. And we have lost every single root breaker that's not the gnome racial root breaker. So I don't think it's that worth it anymore. So I'll take Disarm, I'll take Safeguard, and then sometimes I'll even take Enduring Rage if there's nothing like very physical that I can safeguard. So there's not a lot of physical damage that I can safeguard, and there's nothing to disarm, right? I've heard that Dragon Charge is good. I have yet to test it a lot. I don't know how worth it'll be in threes and shuffle, etc. I know it might be worth in like Blitz, but I don't really see I don't really see it being great, especially because you lose your leap. I know you knock people away from you, so like it can be a second interrupt, but I don't know like why would you, aside from interrupting, I don't know why you would want to knock people away from you as a warrior. But I'll have to test it a little bit more, see if there's actually useful on some situations. But I think in general, like safeguard and disarm are probably better in like most cases, right? Then okay, as for gear, one of the things we're doing is we are not playing Forset. Fury is not playing Forset. Why? Because Odin's Fury is kind of okay-ish, and that's it. So the two sets it's actually decent because it increases the damage your Rampage does, right? Rampage damage increased by 10%, but Odin's Fury increased by 10%, right? So this is nerfed in PvP, so it should be around like maybe like 4% or something along those lines, maybe like 3 point something, right? Because every single tier set is nerfed in PvP by like 66% or 60% or something along those lines. As for the 4 set, it's not worth it to lose all the extra stats on Conquest gear for you to have extra damage on Odin's Fury, because Odin's Fury, like, even the AoE part of it, like, it doesn't really do a lot. It's an okay button to press, but it's not, Rampage still takes priority, and it's not worth it for you to lose all the extra stats. So, what stats are we playing? What I've been testing so far is basically trying to get to around like 10 to 15% haste in PvP combat. So hold on, let me just get here. There we go. So right now I have around 15% haste. That feels pretty good. I've gone as low as like 10%, and that still feels okay, mostly because we're kind of playing Frenzied Enrage instead of Powerful. I think they nerfed Powerful a little bit, so it's kind of okay if you have lower haste, sorry. So with like 10 to 15% haste, it feels decent, right? Right now I'm testing High Mastery, and I want to, it's kind of early in the season to have a character with like a lot of verse, but I want to test that too, right? So what you want to do is basically get around like 15% haste, maybe around that range, and then go for as much versatility and as much mastery as you can. You want to go for the 2 set, and the 2 set has to be on your helmet and on your hands. These are the 2 tier pieces that you need, and the only 2, right? After these, you're basically gonna want, for the meta gem, you're basically gonna want the same as it was, last expansion, just this expansion's version of it. You're gonna want the gem that gives you a damage reduction whenever you're affected by like crowd control. As for embellishment, I am currently using these on my cloak and on my wrist. I've read there's a couple more that could be viable, but I've kind of tested a couple out. It's kind of hard to test them all out because details doesn't really work anymore. As you can all, like, I imagine you've all seen, details doesn't really work anymore. And the in-game, like the new details, it's not good at all. And this is basically just a skin now of the in-game damage meters, and it just doesn't tell you how much damage you do on each spell. It's really hard to like actually measure how good an individual embellishment is. But this is what I'm currently using. Aside from that, as the season goes on, I'll just swap all these pieces for like conquest pieces, right? And I'll try to gear or like enchant for either mastery or versatility. And in speed, in the case, when speed is the only enchant available. And that's about it. Now, as for the rotation, this is where it gets a little bit interesting, right? So what I'll usually do is I'll usually just charge and then stun and then just press my cooldowns, right? And then I'll try to put like my Thunder Blast and start just smashing Rampage as much as I possibly can, right? Fury helps you because it literally just lights up every single button ever. It's literally just lights up everything, right? But it can get a little bit confusing. So outside of cooldowns, right, and even in cooldowns, what you want to do is your first priority is always going to be Rampage, Rampage is always going to be your hardest hitting ability 100% of the time, right? One of the things that has changed between this season or this expansion, right, and the last expansion was that now Raging Blow does not hit for anything. It's really not good at all. And Bloodthirst is actually hitting for a ton, especially if they both are like charged, right? If you're in Wreck and they're kind of their other versions of it, they hit for a truck. It hits for a truck. So your prio, because it's not really a rotation, it's more of a prio, right? Is always going to be Rampage. So you always want to Rampage, and then you want to Blood first, right? Rampage, Blood first, right? And if you do not have any stacks of AoE, you want to use Thunderblast. Or if there's a proc, you want to use Thunderblast third. There we go. And this way you get 4 stacks, and every single ability that you use will be multi-target, will be AoE for those 4 times. Do it again, same thing, right? If you have the procs, right, and you can't Rampage and you can't Bloodthirst, I usually just Odin's Fury. Odin's Fury or Execute. Usually you can't Execute, but you know, this is a training dummy, right? So if I have a proc of Execute, I'll use a proc of Execute. And then finally, if I can't press any of these, literally any of these, right, then I will Raging Blow. Only then I will Raging Blow, right? So I will Rampage, I will Bloodthirst. If I don't have the 4 stacks of AoE, I will Thunderclap. Or if there's a proc, I will Thunderclap, right? Then I will either Execute or Odin's Fury. And as a last resort, and if I can't press anything else, I will Raging Blow. So it probably looks something along these lines, right? Press my cooldowns. Say a spear somebody, right? Get some AoE going on. More Rampage, more Rampages, more Rampages. I got an Execute proc. More Rampages. More AoE. See, there goes one. One Raging Blow. Yes, there we go. 2. So Raging Blow is basically the thing you want to hit the least. That's basically the priority. Rampage, Bloodthirst, and then Thunderblast. Whenever you can or you don't have stacks, when it's a proc or you don't have stacks, then Execute and Odin's Fury, and lastly Raging Blow. And that's pretty much it, guys. Like, comment, subscribe. I'm usually streaming on Twitch, so you can find me there. If you have any questions, just leave it in the comments, or just, if you catch me streaming, just, ask them there. That's fine. Worst case scenario, you can just send me a DM. But thank you for watching, and I'm out.